What's going on? Welcome to VT Sports. I'm Danny Kanell alongside my guy Chris Manno. We got another fun show lined up for you. So many topics to get into. We are 5 weeks into the NFL season. Some surprises there, and has me asking Manno, what team do you trust the most of some of these surprise teams? We've got a coach getting fined for not making contact with an opponent, but for his own player. We have to react to Jonathan Gannon getting fined $100K out there. We've got Yankees with a heroic comeback against the Blue Jays. Can they extend this series? Some UFC news I know Manno wants to get to. A ton to do. How we doing, man? Everything good?
Yeah, man. A lot predicated upon last night. That would have dictated my mood. But yeah, today I'm having a great day.
Yes. It made me a little bit into a better of a mood because I had a rough weekend. It was a rough weekend. I went up to watch my alma mater, Florida State, take on the Miami Hurricanes. And while this was great, I got to share the weekend. I had my two oldest daughters, my 18-year-old, my 16-year-old with me, which definitely soothed things over.
Okay.
Those smiles right there, they were gone by the halftime when they were down 14-3. At one point, it was 28-3. My daughters had a blast. We were on the field the entire game. But I'll tell you what, Miami, they look like the real deal. And Florida State, who did beat Bama to start the season, all of a sudden they have a massive game this weekend to sort of salvage a season to avoid what happened last year. But there's nothing better than me when traveling with my girls, them getting to meet a lot of my former teammates in Tallahassee. There was a bunch of guys. It was a reunion of sorts. And to get them there to see that access, it was a ton of fun, man. Those types of moments, yes. And I was there at Bama, too. And I didn't have my 13-year-old, who's my good luck charm, Brady Buckets. She wasn't there, so we're blaming her for not being at the game. Now my oldest, at least they got to experience it because they haven't been able to go that much because I'm usually working so much. And I was working at the game, so it allowed us to kind of all go together. We were doing some hits before the game. But everything was great until the game started.
Yeah, man, it was a tough one. You're absolutely right, man. It's very cool for me being a New Yorker and being down here, having like a legit juggernaut in our backyard. I don't get college football like that in New York as much as, you know, we've had a year or two where Rutgers was good or Cuse was good. Those are both like Rutgers 3 hours. Syracuse is about 8 hours. So I'm not used to this whole being right in the heart of this college football national title.
We got to get you to a game.
Dude,
we got to get you to a college football game in the South because when I lived in Connecticut for 5 years. And people do not understand college football, the passion. I mean, it is a religion in the South. Like the SEC, like Clemson, the ACC, Florida State.
LSU.
And it is a LSU. There is a scene that happens on game day. And unless you've experienced it, you really can't understand. And people in the Northeast just don't gravitate towards college football. They're more NFL fans, Major League Baseball, NHL, NBA even. College football is the last thing on their mind, but they are missing out on what a great sport it is and a great atmosphere.
Yeah, you're 100% right. I was able to train a couple of them. I sent one kid to Penn State who's like getting like significant time there, and you talk to him about it. That's about as close as we have up there. Is really Happy Valley and them over there, and they're doing a nice job, but yeah, it's nothing like it down here, man. Whole town closes. Don't bother trying to go to the store at that point, man. The whole city is right. Yeah, man, I'm excited. I can't wait to go. I did one U game last year, and they just dog walked Bethune-Cookman.
Oh, yeah. So that's not the atmosphere either because Miami Hurricane fan, I'll give them all the props for on the field, but the fan base, they're not that good. They're the ones that only show up for Notre Dame or Florida. They're not showing up for Bethune. Like, they're just not. They don't show up for every game. They're a great football team, and they showed up when Florida State comes to town. They show up when their rival is coming to town. Notre Dame was there. That place was absolutely ruckus. They're not the best fan base.
I don't know if that's a University of Miami thing or just a City of Miami thing. Because being from New York, as much as we are kind of bad fans, like we're hard on our teams, we show up for our teams. I mean, Jets and Knicks have been full for years. You go to the Heat game when the Heatles were the biggest thing in the world, and the stadium, the arena was empty until the second quarter. So it's like, you guys are just bad fans in general.
I say this as a South Floridian, somebody who grew up down here. This is the worst sports market in the country because they don't care unless you're winning. Marlins, they have a beautiful ballpark. There's 500 people there. They were in the middle of the race at the end of the season, had a chance to make the playoffs. Empty. Unless they're making a World Series run, nobody's going to be there. Heat, even with LeBron and the Heatles, like you mentioned, they'll show up maybe around halftime when they're coming in. Then they'll maybe leave early so they can hit South Beach to go out at night. Man. The Dolphins, you go to a Dolphins game, it's more Jets fans, it's more Giants fans, it's more Bills fans, almost making more noise than the Dolphins fans. I say this as a South Floridian. I wish I could challenge them to change their mindset because when I did play in New York, I would absolutely, as a player, rather have a fan base which is passionate, might be hard on me as a player, as opposed to a fan base that's indifferent when you're losing and doesn't show up. That is the worst, to show up as a player and the stadium's dead. And then nobody's there. I'd rather have a stadium full that's crowded, that's loud, and then, yeah, they're booing you, but at least they care.
Yeah, I've taken the time in 2 years to wait for the Yankees to come down and play the Marlins, knowing it's going to be so exciting. I get a ticket anywhere I want. And you hear Jazz Chisholm, who was with the Marlins for a while and made the move up to New York now. And he talks glowingly about how different the environment. So, I mean, it's like you want to play important baseball in front of people that care, and there's nowhere better than New York. And it's nowhere kind of worse than here, unfortunately.
There you are. Speaking the truth right there. Yeah. I'm just in agreement with you. All right, let's look at the NFL, because the NFL, we are 5 weeks into the season. We've seen some great games so far. In Monday Night Football, we saw your Kansas City Chiefs go on the road to Jacksonville against a very hot Jacksonville team. And it appeared that Kansas City was going to get back on track. They were going to get a big win under their belt on the road against Trevor Lawrence and company, but not so fast, as Trevor Lawrence had a big game. I don't know what happened on that last play when he fell down, not once, but twice, and then waltzed into the end zone. You had Devin Lloyd with a pick six against Patrick Mahomes, which was such a huge pivotal moment in that game. And my favorite part of the game was getting this young man involved, Travis Hunter. I mean, this is unbelievable. This is the type of plays that they were expecting to get when they traded up to number 2 for him. And what was really starting to bother me were a lot of the critics that were saying it was a bust and they spent too much to get him. Before he's even through the halfway point of his rookie year, this is the type of athlete he is. I think he's a freak that can handle the workload. I thought it would take some time, and it was great to see Jacksonville make it a priority to start force feeding him the football.
Well, and that's why I think part of why they're calling him a bust, you got to understand how hard it is to make the transition from college to pro at one position, to spend half the time that a normal receiver spends at receiver and half the time a normal cornerback spends at corner is going to make it significantly harder. I think he's capable of doing it, but I watched plays like that, and I almost think they're doing a disservice to the kid, because I'd almost rather see him go be an all-pro receiver or go be an all-pro corner rather than split your time and be like a 2 or 3 receiver, you know? Do you feel like that in some way? I feel like if this guy dedicates all his time to being the best receiver in the league, maybe he goes out and becomes one of the best receivers in the league, and I'd love to see that.
I do wonder if that would be the best approach, because focus on one, master your craft on offense or defense. Selfishly, I would rather see him catch the ball like we saw just there, and let him develop, become the full complement of receiver, run all the route tree, become more comfortable with the system that's in place. Then you switch him maybe year 2 to the defensive side of the ball, or use him very spot use in really pass-heavy situations where it's a 3rd and long. You might want to put him in there in the slot somewhere where you could have him just 5 or 6 plays a game, maybe 10 or less. I do think that the reason they're playing him on both is because of the pressure and because of the move that they made to try to justify moving up to number 2.
Yeah, I completely agree with you with that. It's going to make it real difficult for them to explain why
Devin
they made
Lloyd going the other way.
I know, I saw it. Dude, everything that, let's talk about this game right now, though. Everything the Chiefs could have done in every facet wrong, they did wrong. It's so uncharacteristic of these guys. I mean, Patrick Mahomes to throw a 99-yard pick six is unheard of, right? He's the last one, and that's something I've seen him play bad games before, and it's such a beautiful feeling because I grew up a Jets fan, and to be able to have somebody that you always say back there, I'm like, guys, don't stress. 15 is back there. So to see him make the mistake is huge. Then you watch a guy like Harrison Butker, who, for whatever reason, something is not right with him upstairs this year. He's been horrible. He's missed a kick in every game. And then something as simple as keeping the ball in bounds. He kicks the ball out of bounds and gives him the ball at the 40 and gives him half a field to work. The Chiefs, and I know it's been a big thing over the last couple of years, Chiefs get all the calls. Well, the Chiefs were out-penalized. I mean, they took 14 penalties for like 109 yards to 4 for 25 from Jacksonville. So, I mean, everything that could have went wrong. I mean, we have the last example of it right here.
Some of it was on the ref, some was on bad bounces, some of it was effort, as the case here. Trevor Lawrence trips twice, gets up, and if you see number 95, that is one of the supposedly best players in the NFL, a defensive tackle for the Chiefs, one Chris Jones, who makes $30 million a year, just inked an extension a couple years ago, $140 million, and this is the effort you get. Here's what concerns me about the Chiefs, and I think Chris Jones kind of encapsulates what's wrong with the Chiefs. I think they're fat and happy. Like, I think they are not hungry enough to be the team that this team was in the dynasty, where you're trying to prove people wrong. You're trying to prove your critics wrong. You're trying to get that big payday. You're trying to establish yourself in the NFL. What I saw was complacency. And I thought Chris Jones was just a small example of what you've seen from an entire team that feels like, yeah, we'll be fine. We'll make it to the playoffs. We don't have to win now. And if they're not careful, they're not going to make the playoffs because they keep setting them further and further behind the 8 ball, where it's going to be a long road back. And they're losing some of that intimidation factor. When you go on the road, it would always be, oh, here come the Chiefs. Here come Mahomes. Oh, boy, how are we going to beat this team? Now, team like the Jags, they look at them, they take them down. Everybody's looking at them that way.
Yeah, I've heard you say that before, and there definitely is something to that. We worried about the Eagles doing that earlier in the year. But I think the best thing about this team is, and the reason I don't stress too much about that is because everything to me last night was self-inflicted. I mean, other than a couple of late Trevor Lawrence throws that were just absolutely out of this world, 15 penalties you can fix, right? Leaving these wide open gaps for Trevor Lawrence to run through, Spags can fix. Effort, you can fix, right? Drops, you can fix. Stuff like that makes me feel like they will figure it out. They got guys in that locker room that I have to believe. You know the drill, man. You don't become Patrick Mahomes great, Andy Reid great, Travis Kelce level great without that self-motivation inside. In one day, I was happy to see this knucklehead deleted his social media. He didn't want to hear it. So I was really glad to see. He must have been getting cooked on there.
He should be getting cooked.
Of course.
So here was Chris Jones after the game. This is his explanation for why the Chiefs lost.
What did you see on Trevor Lawrence's touchdown when he fell first? Did you get a good view of him as he hit the ground? After that, how did that play out?
I thought multiple times we had him. We just got to finish. We got to finish. We had multiple guys there that we just got to finish that play. It was a fluke play for him to be able to break that many tackles. But yeah, I think I put it on us as a defense. We got to finish.
Not on me.
We got to bring him down on that.
Not on me. That's on us.
Everything about that clip is wrong. This clip tested the durability of my iPhone, man. Trust me.
Oh my
I was
gosh.
so mad. He says first, we got to finish. That's wrong. Chris Jones, you got to start. He didn't even come off the ball hard, nothing. The whole thing, he put it on the entirety of the defense, which was very frustrating, though the defense did play poorly. I mean, we didn't point it out. Can we run that one more time and let him see? Can we point out Chris Jones? We don't have a ability to do that. But
I mean, he's the guy standing upright, watching the play unfold, and watches Trevor Lawrence go in to the end zone.
Yeah, just no self-awareness, unbelievable.
And I don't think he was aware of the criticism that was going online when he was doing his press conference. But here's my issue with Chris Jones. When you're a leader on a team, which I do consider him a leader, he's one of the best defensive players in the NFL. Mm-hmm. When you were a leader and you get success, that's when it's we. When you have success as a player, you credit your teammates. And when you have adversity or failure, that's when you take it on yourself. That was an opportunity for Chris Jones to step up and say, that was on me. I thought, and even if he would have said, Trevor Lawrence, I thought he tripped. I thought he was tagged. I thought the play was over. Mm-hmm. That would have been better than the answer we got from Chris Jones, where he's out there saying, we have to do better. That was a moment for him to step up. Instead, he didn't. It was a failure, and that's the reason why he's deleted his social media. What do you think Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and Andy Reid, what do you think they're telling Chris Jones in private?
I think exactly what you just said. I think those guys are very much likely to hold themselves accountable. The quarterback in you is the reason you feel like that, right? That's Patrick Mahomes and how he's going to approach the situation. That's Andy Reid. It is all about it. It's all about me when it's bad and we when it's good. You said it perfectly, and I think that's probably the message he's getting. I think it was scary because of the situation itself. 30 seconds left, guys. No timeouts.
Right.
So if you just touch Trevor Lawrence on the ground, lay on him. There's a chance they don't get another playoff. You know what I mean? So you have to know the situation. He was completely checked out mentally when you know the down and distance. It's very worrisome in that sense, though.
Which is inexcusable for a defensive player.
Yeah.
Most defensive players that I played against, it was annoying how they would play past the time the play was over. Like I would throw a pass, and it was a very clear, incomplete pass. But maybe it got batted at the line of scrimmage, but it's on the ground. What do most defenders do? They pick it up and try to score.
Yeah,
and I'm
100%.
like, calm, pipe down,
until
Sparky.
You tell me it's
I'm like, exactly. I'm like, will you chill out? Instead, he's shutting it down before the play's even over. It's a bad look. I do think they have to be really careful how they handle this. This is why I asked you that question. I don't know. I've been in those meeting rooms after a game like that, and you could have Andy Reid in front of the entire team pull up that play and ream Chris Jones. Like ream him, like curse him out, call him out, crush him, saying this is unacceptable. I don't know if that's the best approach with Chris Jones. He's a unique dude. That's why I think the best approach with him is Patrick Mahomes pulls him aside in private. Travis Kelce pulls him aside in private. Andy Reid calls him into his office in private and explains to him very calmly. I don't think you even have to yell at him. You have to raise your voice. Just say, hey, I know that's not who you are. Yeah. We cannot have that level of effort, though. You are a leader that has to lead by example, which is why we have to have you out there giving your A effort every single play.
And you can see from his quick trigger finger to delete social media, he probably is a little thin-skinned with it. Maybe he doesn't do well with stuff like that. The good thing about that in this locker room is I mean, Patrick Mahomes is an emotional dude on the field. I don't really see him yelling in a bad way at his teammates. You know, like I've seen him get onto the sideline and get his offensive line jacked up. And Andy Reid the same way, a little headbanging with Travis Kelce here and there, but he's been around the block enough times to know his players and how to handle it. I don't think they'll really rip him for it. I think maybe Travis is the one you keep away from him right now, and let the other guys handle it. But I mean, a winning player, that shouldn't have to be said a second time. Yeah. It shouldn't happen a first time, but if it does, it really shouldn't happen a second time.
That's why I think it's almost biblical in concept. If you have somebody who has an issue, they're falling, they're cheating on their wife, whatever, you go to them in private first, and that's, I think, the first step. And then if it happens again, and if you continue to see lack of effort, that's when you call them out in front of the whole team. And I think that's the proper steps to take for Andy Reid and the Chiefs. You know what else? You know, I picked the Chiefs not to make the Super Bowl. I picked them to have kind of a reset type of year. You know why? I mean, have you heard Taylor Swift's new album?
Is it bad?
The Showgirl?
I haven't heard Taylor Swift's first album.
There are a lot of Swifties who are upset. They're saying that Travis Kelce was not a great muse, and they're blaming Travis Kelce. So he hasn't felt the brunt of the criticism from the Swifties yet, but her new album, I don't know. It's very mixed reviews from the Swifties. This could be problematic. It could be a sign of things to come.
Yeah, this is the first I'm hearing about this.
Yeah, I figured it probably was. I didn't think you were too dialed in. I remember I have 3 teenage daughters.
But I do understand the juice that comes with Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift, come out, make a statement, protect your man, right? Yeah. It's going to take one statement for her. She could do any. I think she, Beyonce, like Lady Gaga, they fall into those little hives where you could do anything and say one statement and your legions get behind you, right? Yep. I mean, I've seen guys get fried on social media for attacking one of these girls, and I know now.
Yes.
Nicki Minaj.
This is going to sidetrack the show. Pull up a little Bad Bunny photo. How do we feel about Bad Bunny being the Super Bowl halftime show? Because it's been very polarizing. The conservatives are very upset. Yeah. There's a lot of people that are celebrating it. I mentioned I have 3 teenage daughters. I hear Bad Bunny all the time. We're at the pool. You hear a little bit of Bad Bunny. I kind of like some of his music. But the thing I think that dropped the ball from the NFL is I don't think he kind of brings everybody together where everybody can kind of relate to it. But I don't know if that person exists, except for that girl that we were just talking about. Taylor Swift would have been the perfect halftime show late in Travis Kelce's career. Instead, they go with Bad Bunny. I think it's going to hurt the NFL perception-wise. They might even lose some advertisements from some really big brands that say they don't like some of the things he stands for. He's been very outspoken, kind of against ICE, against America. I think this was a polarizing pick and a fail from the NFL.
Yeah, I think they usually look for somebody safe, right? They've tried to avoid. I mean, I couldn't believe they let Eminem and 50 do it for a while, but after the Justin Timberlake thing happened, I think they started to veer away from anybody that could bring any controversy. Here's my general deal. Like, I think if there's a country that affords you the blessings that Bad Bunny was afforded, I think you try to find a way to outwardly bring them together, to show them love, and he's done everything but that, to the point of saying, go learn Spanish so you can understand my music. And I'm totally cool with this being the melting pot. I'm very, very okay with it. But yeah, I mean, I think that just stokes the flames, man. You're absolutely right. I wouldn't be shocked at all if there's like a concerted effort amongst one side to try to back out during the Super Bowl. I think you're going to see the numbers drop significantly. They'll find something else to do. Maybe you get like a nice country guy to throw his own little concert at.
I just hope you get the light version of Bad Bunny. Some of these images you're showing the very risque, very push the envelope, cross-dressing, flirting with some really what look like satanic images.
I've never seen that Bad Bunny before.
Oh, it's out there. It exists. Really? It's one thing I've actually talked to my daughters about. Be careful what you were listening to.
Of course.
There's been a lot of flirtation with some stuff that's just darker than you would like, and especially with kids that tune in, families that sit in front of the TV to watch the Super Bowl. I hope we get the tame version. And I do think you will. That's the one thing I think people are going to freak out because they see these. If he shows up like that, the internet's going to break.
Well, people are going to be on high alert, and I think that's something with every performer, probably the last 10 or 15 years, they do. That performance is going to be under a microscope, and anything even reasonably risque he does is going to get torn to shreds. So,
yes.
Yeah, we'll see, man. The country's in a weird spot right now.
Yes, it is.
That is an interesting collage right there.
All right, we were breaking down Jacksonville's big win over Kansas City. So Jacksonville moves to 4-1. They are now in a tie in front of the AFC East with the Indianapolis Colts, who are 4-1.
Right.
Two pretty big surprises. I think a lot of people maybe thought the Texans would rebound. They have not. And then, surprisingly, you have the Pittsburgh Steelers sitting atop the AFC North ahead of the Bengals. Now, they have an excuse. Burrow's out. But the Baltimore Ravens have no excuse at 1-4. So, of these surprise teams, Pittsburgh at 3-1, Indy at 4-1, Jacksonville at 4-1. I ask you this, Chris Manno, who do you trust the most?
Okay, so if you would have asked me this before Monday night, I may have given you a different answer. But watching the Jags and seeing some of the explosive players that they have and the way their defense looked at times, and I'll tell you one thing. If you remember a couple years ago, Trevor Lawrence that played on Monday, that's the Trevor Lawrence I thought was coming out of college, man. He was athletic. He made great throws at tough times. I mean, he was able to do everything out there. He's 6'5". Like I said, there was lanes the entire game for him to run. That's something I haven't seen a ton from him over the last couple of years. You spent the last 5 years or so now, the better part of it, bringing in explosive players from Josh Hines Allen to the first overall pick the next year. They have now Travis Hunter. Brian Thomas Jr. had a monster rookie year. Fell off a little bit the first couple of weeks here, but it seems like he's starting to get it back together. And Trevor made some big-time throws in big-time spots. Mm-hmm. The competition is Daniel Jones, who I've seen do some good things. I mean, you run the football, they could potentially do some things, but there are some teams in that division that I don't expect to go quietly. And Aaron Rodgers, they're not winning games because of Aaron Rodgers, I don't think, right now. So, I mean, if I see the old Aaron Rodgers, I may change my tune. But fresh off of watching Trevor Lawrence do his thing on Monday and knocking off the mighty Chiefs, and he looked really, really good in the process.
Yes.
You know, that's going to be my pick right now. How about yourself?
I do not trust Trevor Lawrence. I've watched him a lot going back to college, and I've seen him throughout his NFL career. You see unbelievable moments and sometimes throws that are off the charts, but the consistency has been lacking. And some of that's on the surroundings, some of that's on the amount of coaches and offensive coordinators that he's been through. Mm-hmm. But I before this game, and even if you go back a couple weeks ago, the bust conversation was coming up. Yeah. Like, did Jacksonville pay him too much? Are they too overly heavily committed to Trevor Lawrence? And I think that was a valid question to ask. So I don't trust them. Daniel Jones, as much as I would love to trust him, and I think he could be an MVP story, I need to see a little longer. I am shocked you're not going to go with a Hall of Famer in Aaron Rodgers and in Mike Tomlin based on a couple things. One, the history and success that Mike Tomlin's had with the Steelers organization. And I actually like the fact that they're winning without Aaron Rodgers having to put the team on his back. Right. And their division's a mess. Like, you still have the Colts and Jaguars have to play each other twice in the month of December, last month of the season. Meanwhile, you got the Bengals, serious issues. The Ravens, they have half their team out this past weekend. I wonder where they are. They're sitting at 1-4, and Cleveland's a bit of a mess. I know we're going to talk about them and the trade that was just made, but I'm going to go with the Steelers as the team I trust the most to stay where they are and to potentially be a team that could make a little bit of a run in the playoffs.
It's funny that you picked the division to be like the reason why you feel good about it. The yes. division for me is why I feel like that's going to be a tough one. How long are you going to keep Lamar Jackson down? He's going to get his guys back. And
I don't know.
I think Lamar Jackson wins probably 4 games on his own. Yeah. Right? He's good enough to win maybe 4 games on his own. Start to get these guys healthy. We're talking about it now. We're going to move over to that trade. Yep. I think the trade that the Browns just made is going to be a huge one. And I'm sure I'll let you break it down and we'll get into it. But I don't see those two teams staying down. You think the Ravens are going to finish with double-digit losses?
I have my concerns about the Ravens. Like, I know, and that's the trend. I do think, like, I love Lamar Jackson. I love Derrick Henry.
And John Harbaugh.
Like, I like that organization. They were my Super Bowl pick. I just don't like what I've seen from them yet. The defense is still a liability. And when I see as many players shut it down, right. I kind of wonder in the back of my mind, are they not playing? Because once you see 3 or 4 guys out, then the tendency is like, well, we're not going to be very competitive. Let me get a week off too. And they're just going to try to flip that switch. It's really hard to do in the NFL. And I just wonder how a team that's been very pedestrian, very average, is all of a sudden going to go from 50 miles an hour to 100 and just run off a streak of games, I don't trust them right now.
I think I'd feel more worried if they did have a full strength lineup and were at this record. But yeah, they're going to get guys back. How many of them are down for the year where they're like, we know they're not coming back?
They're going to get most of them back.
That's what I thought too. They lost one guy to a neck injury. It escapes me his name right now, but I think the same reason you said, a Hall of Fame quarterback and a coach like Mike Tomlin. Well, I say a Hall of Fame quarterback, a Hall of Fame running back, and a coach like John Harbaugh, who's proven that he's going to win over and over. That team's going to keep playing hard for John Harbaugh. And like we're going to see with the Joe Burrow, with the Joe Flacco thing right now, I think, can we just get into it?
Yeah, for sure.
So I mean, I guess you could talk about it. I could talk about it. The Browns send Joe Flacco and a 6th-round pick to the Bengals for a 5th-round pick, right? And we saw this happen a couple of years ago where Joe Flacco was brought in the middle of a season, and all he did was rip off 5 wins, and he won a comeback player of the year. Well, I talked about this yesterday. I think all they're asking of Joe Flacco now is to steady the ship and keep them into playoff contention until Joe Burrow gets back. Because if you can stay in the mix until Joe Burrow gets back and you get into the playoffs with a healthy Joe Burrow, a healthy Jamar Chase, a healthy T. Higgins, all bets are off. This is a team nobody's going to want to play, right? And right now you have to think that the same way he charged some energy into the Browns building the first time, I mean, you think Jamar Chase and T. Higgins are happy right now? This guy's just going to – you don't think so?
No, I'm saying they weren't happy before they made this move because Jake Browning, I still don't know why the Bengals didn't make this move sooner or somebody else sooner. And I do think it was sort of the perfect opportunity for them to get somebody who's not super expensive because that was the thing with Kirk Cousins. There was way too much obligation financially committed to him.
Right.
There was the rumblings, were they going to trade for Shador? That was never going to happen.
Yeah.
Was it going to be Russell Wilson or Jameis Winston, one of the backups for the Giants? I don't know if that's that great of an option. Right. And we've at least seen Flacco recent history. It didn't start off great for him this year in Cleveland, but at least we've seen him play at a high level recently. So yes, to your question, and if I'm Flacco, I got to be thrilled because throwing to those 2 dudes on the outside, Jamar Chase is an absolute beast, one of the best in the league. T. Higgins is a great number 2. Yeah. So I think Joe Flacco might be the biggest winner here.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth, man. This guy's a Super Bowl champion, and he's been playing for 1,000,000 years, and never in his life has he had a cast of receivers to throw to like Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. And you could probably speak to this better than me, but my understanding is as a quarterback, the last thing to throw is going to be that arm. I mean, the last thing to go is going to be that arm, and Joe Flacco's got a cannon.
Yes.
So all he's got to do is get that ball in their direction and let Jamar Chase go do Jamar Chase and let T. Higgins go be T. Higgins. And I'd be very hard-pressed to think it's not going to go better than it's been.
Do you know why I think we're seeing so many quarterbacks excel later in their career? Flacco's 40 years old. You did not see this happen 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Then we see Tom Brady play into his 40s, Aaron Rodgers into his 40s. Now it's Flacco. The quarterback position has never been easier to play. The rules of the game protect you unlike anything we've ever seen in the pocket. So you're not susceptible to so many hits that you used to be susceptible to. The rules of the game defensively, some of the pass interference rules where you can't make contact within 5 yards, all of it is favorable to a quarterback. So the huge advantage that you have if you're a Flacco or a Rodgers is the amount of years that you've played, seen every defense that you'll ever imagine, and then knowing, you know what? As long as I get rid of the ball, if I protect myself, I'm not going to get hit anywhere close to what I would have 10 years ago. I think that's why all the numbers are up across the board for quarterbacks that have been putting up monster numbers the last several years. It's going to totally throw off every record that's ever been set by quarterbacks. And you're just going to see quarterback play continue to excel and guys continuing to play in their 40s because the game has never been easier to play for the quarterbacks.
100% right. And that's the game is completely tailored towards the protection of the offense now. And we see that in every sport, right? Because commissioners now, as bad as they are at some things, they're smart enough to know that the fans make this whole thing go. It's why we see home runs. It's why we see 3-pointers. And they've tailored the game in the NFL for the same way. Now, I think at the same time, we're going to see guys continue to play long because while the rules start to favor the quarterbacks, we're making advances in sports science and training and diet and recovery. We saw 40-year-old Aaron Rodgers go down with an Achilles 2 years ago, and they got this crazy thing called a speed bridge that made some of us believe he's going to get back in 8 months. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So a lot of these things that were outside of the realm, we didn't even think about him a year ago. You know, a guy like another guy in this building, right? Deshaun Watson, no one wants to talk about him. He's taking drop backs and he's throwing the ball all over the field now. If you see his film, things that you would never expect a quarterback to be able to do 8 months off an Achilles, you know?
So one of the things that allowed the Browns to make this trade, to send Flacco packing, was what you saw Dylan Gabriel do in his first start. Now, they came up short. They didn't get the win, but he played really, really good. A couple touchdown passes. I thought maybe most impressive was the ability to get the ball out of his hands quickly, protect an offensive line that had been struggling with something Flacco was, struggling with protection. For a young quarterback, and he's not that young because he played 6 years in college, but he knew exactly where to go with the football, quick release. And I think this hopefully should silence any of the Shedeur Sanders conspiracy theorists who felt like the front office was out to get Shedeur and put him in a position to fail. Why is Dylan Gabriel, whose arm isn't as good and hasn't had the career that Shedeur had, why is he playing? Now you see why. At some point, the conspiracy theorists need to shut up and realize the Browns made the right decision to go with Dylan Gabriel.
All right, so let's start with the Dylan Gabriel thing. I've been a fan for a long time. I watched him through college. I always thought he was good, always made the right decisions, and you're spot on, right? But the conspiracy theories are never going to go away, and I want to break some news to you. Maybe you haven't heard. They're kicking around the idea of bringing up Bailey Zappi and making him the number 2 quarterback for this game off the practice squad. So if you thought the conspiracy theories might stop at Shedeur Sanders, who I really want to see play too. I'd love to see how he does, man. He did have that thing. We'll talk about it a little. You want to talk about the where he was like kind of mouthing stuff? It's the first time I was a little disappointed in him.
Yes, because I think every time we've talked about him, even going back into training camp when he was playing, when he wasn't, when Dylan Gabriel and him was talking and was like, "Is there an issue?" I was like, "No, there's not an issue." Of all the things, I thought this was the most clownish thing he's done.
Yeah, same.
When he, and I get why he did it. He pays attention too much to what people in the media are saying. So Rex Ryan's on ESPN and blasts him, said, "Hey, you should shut your mouth. You should get in the front row, and you should get in your playbook, and you should win over your coaches." All things that are 100% true. Then Shedeur is out there in front of the media and is getting asked some questions, and he's just miming. He's not speaking. All he's doing is moving his lips, and he's laughing, and he's joking around. The thing that bothered me the most about this was a team that was 1-3. Like, if you're a winning team and that's having a conversation, you're having some fun, and it's not to say you can't ever joke around, but in front of the media to act like everything is kind of a clown show really shows me that Shedeur is the biggest clown of all of them.
Yeah, I hate to say it. I mean, this was definitely a black eye from him. He's done such a phenomenal job from dropping in the draft and handling that so graciously and the right way in the media to just thanking everybody for the opportunity. He's saying all the right things. Apparently, he's doing all the right things. And to see this happen does suck, man. And now, again, that's something I have to keep an eye on. But I did read that before we jumped on.
Interesting. I did not see that either. I would think that might take a little bit of time. But all I would do is tell Shedeur is be ready to go for your opportunity because injuries happen. Yeah. I know the quarterback's protected, but Dylan Gabriel's had concussions in his past. Like, anything could happen. Be ready to go because, my goodness, is the scrutiny going to be on him when he does play. And I hope he does play well.
Same.
I just wish he would act like a professional. He's acting still like a college kid or a YouTuber, which are all things that he kind of is still. Right. He's very much socially involved with his YouTube channel. I wish he would table that and just be a professional quarterback.
Yeah, we see QB3s play every year. Like, it's not out of the realm to think that this guy in 2 weeks could be your QB2 or QB1. But you said it perfectly. Like to see him show some maturity. I think, obviously, that's probably why he dropped in the draft a little bit, right? I think 100%. A lot of people were worried about all the stuff that comes with him. And then I think that's another reason why you could, if the Zappi story is true, Bailey Zappi started games, and he started games for Bill Belichick, where you're almost forced to be a grown man. You know what I mean? So it's something that I hope they spoke to him about. I hope he understands. And again, I want to see him succeed too. Seems like a good kid. I know that walking in Deion's son's shoes is probably a tall task anyway. So to see him get in there and do well would be something I've been rooting for. So if he gets this opportunity, I hope he does the right thing with it.
I would too. I would love to see that happen. I also think Dylan Gabriel could have a chance to kind of play pretty well himself as we saw that, and we'll see how that goes.
Right.
We had a really unusual situation unfold, and unfortunately, but this is becoming way too much of a trend. We had the Arizona Cardinals playing against the Tennessee Titans, and we had Arizona, Tennessee, by the way, one of the worst teams in the league, but Cam Ward is a baller. That guy's going to be a stud, the number 1 overall pick from last year. And you had a situation unfolding where Amari DeMarcado, a running back for the Cardinals, is going in to score a touchdown. And this to me is such a head scratcher. It's such an inexplicable. How does this keep happening? The 7th time this has happened in the NFL. Deshaun Jackson, probably one of the most famous. I think he might have been the first.
He did it in a high school all-star game.
Yes.
He dove, which was crazy because he dove from the 5. So I was like, this dude's an absurd athlete.
Right.
He dove from the 5 and then fumbled on the 1.
So after DeMarcado fumbles that ball, and by the way, all of this led to an unbelievable win for the Titans and a horrific loss for the Arizona Cardinals. Here's a look at the breakaway run. He's going down the field, and you see him, and he just drops it. Right, just ever so slightly there. The defender notices it right away, starts pointing at it, says, let's review this thing. And I mean, it is inches. It is right there. What is so hard about finishing and dropping the ball, I don't know, a yard or two inside the end zone? How can this keep happening is my biggest question. And then unfortunately, you saw a really unfortunate incident because it continued where DeMarcado's on the sideline. And I guarantee he feels foolish. He's embarrassed. I would hope so. But Jonathan Gannon, the head coach, comes over and lets him have it and puts hands on him. And that is something you cannot do where it came out today. And I think this is a first in NFL history. I can't remember this ever happening where a head coach gets fined for making contact with his own player.
And didn't get fined by the league either.
Right.
Got fined by the team.
$100,000. It's such an unusual precedent. I do wonder how the season unfolds for Arizona. If Jonathan Gannon survives this, this could be a massive issue for him. But as a head coach, the best coaches I always played for, when you were playing well, that was when you were the hardest on them. And when you were playing poorly or you made some sort of boneheaded mistake, that's when they put their arm around you. That's when they kind of took you under their wing and said, you know what? This is embarrassing. I know it was a mistake. We'll get past this. As opposed to what you saw from Gannon that did there. Let's hear from Jonathan Gannon, see what he said after the game when he was talking to the media about that incident that unfolded. Get it up here in a second as we've got Jonathan Gannon. We just had it up. All right, cool. We'll get it up there in a second. I'll tell
you what, in the meantime, this is what I think, man. I think it's a big generational thing. I think you talk to an 18 to 25-year-old player, maybe a little older, 28-year-old player, they have a huge problem with this. You talk to a guy, I mean, even I'm starting to get a little long in the tooth, man. You talk to me, and I didn't think it was a big deal. I hate to say it like that, but I've had coaches grab my shoulder pads before, grab a face mask of a guy on my team. If it's a guy who I know loves me and he's not punching nobody, unless I didn't see it correctly, which I guess maybe I didn't, but it didn't seem like a huge deal to me. I've seen coaches grip up players before, and it ends up being that and nothing else. I mean, we can run to them, but maybe I'm wrong. But that, to me, it didn't seem like a massive deal.
Let's hear it.
Didn't feel great about it, honestly. So in the team meeting, I addressed it. I apologized to Omari, apologized to the team. And I just told him I kind of let the moment of what happened get the better of me there. Obviously, like I try to be emotionally stable and calm because my job is to solve problems during a game and kind of lead the charge on that. So it's not really who I am, who I want to be. And I told the guys that today. So it's a mistake by me, and it's just like everybody in there. Everybody made some type of mistake yesterday, which is, culminates to why we didn't win the game, and we can't let it happen moving forward.
So did I hear you correctly, though? That you thought it wasn't that big of a deal?
I didn't.
And you think it's a generational thing?
I really do. I mean, have you not had? I mean, every level from high school to college to, I guess when I was in the league, nobody put hands on the players, but anything else any other level I've played at, there's been something like, what's different between that and a guy going chest to chest? Did I not see the clip right? Can we run the clip one more time, Malik? Did he actually haul off and smack him?
I think he got him pretty good. It's hard to see.
But hitting a guy in the chest with the shoulder pads on, is that a huge deal?
I think this is, to your point, I do think some of this is generational, about a generation that is way softer and way more sensitive when they do get criticized. I'm going to send these guys a tweet.
Is there a better? Oh, that little pop at the end there? That doesn't bother me.
I know.
That doesn't. You know what, though? Let me ask you this question. So, and granted, it's not the same thing, but we fried last week Mike McDaniels for being so easy and want to be homies with the players.
Right.
And we think he's going to lose his job, right? So where is that medium where you can't be hard on him? You think DeMarcado was hurt or felt this in any way, like physically?
No.
So
Des Bryant, I just sent the fellas there this tweet. He said, That was after they reported that Gannon had been fired. He said,
Fined.
Fined.
Sorry about that.
Said, I don't agree with the Cardinals fining Coach Gannon $100,000. I believe it only happened because of this soft-ass world we live in. If you're an athlete with any kind of integrity and respect for the game, you'll understand that situation. This is football. That play clearly cost them the game. I hope this doesn't cause a weird vibe between the Coach Gannon and DeMarcado.
Let me ask you this, and I'm right there with him. Let me ask you when the Ravens were winning games. If an intense dude like Ray Lewis would have came up to a guy on his defense and just popped the guy in the shoulder pads like that, would any of us say anything?
No.
And would it have?
I do think it's different player to player than it is coach to player, because here's the issue you run into. What if DeMarcado does that to Gannon?
Oh, well, obviously. I mean,
see, that's the issue. That's where, and I think that's the best pushback, because I'm old school by nature.
Yes, you are.
I was chewed out. I was yelled at. I think I think players are softer now. They're too sensitive. They need to get some thicker skin. Mm-hmm. But that is the one caveat that I would say you don't want a situation where if it was reversed, if a player went up to Gannon, let's say he was yelling at him, let's say he smacked him in the face, did something like that, that player's probably getting cut. And that's where I think the Cardinals had to find him to do something to say, you know what? We can't have this happening on our sideline, because to me, it does appear undisciplined, too emotional. Gannon saying, hey, I have to be stable in that position. And he seemed out of control by letting him put hands on him. If he would have just reamed him out and just cursed him out in front of everybody, I don't think anybody would have had a problem with it. But I do think today's player, I think you have to adapt to make sure that you don't lose the locker room there in Arizona.
Yeah, I guess it's a
because I get your point and I get Des Bryant's point. I just feel like we've gotten a place where you kind of have to worry not about one player, but about the entire locker room.
Right. So, but I guess that's more like a locker room thing than I think it's a one-person thing. And I think you're right. If he goes off and slaps Jonathan Gannon in the head, blah, blah. But I think it's also different if Jonathan Gannon goes off and smacks him in the head. You know, right. I think kind of the action itself was. I don't have a problem. I've had coaches grab my face mask and yell at me. Like, don't make him. And I don't know, man. I don't think that act right there, middle of the chest, easy little pop like that, isn't the end of the world to me. Like you said, comes back and hauls off on him and hits him in the head or the face. Different story. I don't know, man. I wish I felt.
I just am stunned that it's 2025 and we've seen this happen 7 times now in the last 15 years. Like, is it to the point where NFL coaches have to put these plays up in training camp and say, hey guys, make sure you don't drop the ball before it crosses the goal line? At what point is it just embarrassing where you're like, I can't be that guy?
And this one pisses coaches off because I watched this. This happened with a kid named Malachi Corley for the Jets last year. It was going to be his first touchdown in the NFL. He gets an end around and he drops it on like the half-yard line. He's gone now, and he was somebody they had a really bright future for. It's mistakes like this that really do drive coaches crazy. Like I think coaches are okay with dropping a football. We've talked about it before. They're cool with you dropping a football. It's the focus thing and the effort thing and the being locked in when you need to be locked in. Like that there is such a me type of thing. Like you couldn't wait one extra step to get your glory. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like that tells me when he's on the 10, that's what he's thinking about.
Right.
Oh, what's about to happen to me.
Finish.
Yeah, come on, man.
Finish the play.
Yeah, it's very frustrating. Sucks.
We'll see which direction the Cardinals go from here. They dropped to 2-3. You wonder what this means for Gannon, what it means for his future, and we'll keep an eye on that story. All right, last night, I was sitting on the couch, and I had the multi-view going.
There it is.
The dual view, because Dancing with the Stars was on, and it was Disney theme night, and there was a social media influence named Alex Earl that my teenagers were like, we got to watch it.
Okay.
So that was on one box. And the other one was the New York Yankees going against Toronto Blue Jays, looking like they might have been be getting swept at home in the Bronx, Yankee Stadium, down 6-1 until this happened. Oh my goodness.
It's his moment. It is. It's time. Judge has arrived.
What a great call. I think that's Joe Davis on the call.
Absolutely,
and
Joe
he
Davis.
said, this is Judge's moment.
Yep.
That was what tied the game when they had cut it to 6-3. It's a 3-run homer. It was very reminiscent to me of a Carlton Fisk when he's waiting there and he's trying to keep that ball in bounds. He's going down because Judge was he knew it was gone.
Yes.
But he just wanted to see if it was going to stay fair or not. It ends up hitting the foul pole, which is fair. And he goes, flips the bat, and the rest is history. The Giants complete the comeback. But that was one of the best epic Yankees moments in history, what just happened last night.
And I think that is what was missing from Aaron Judge's resume.
Correct.
If you spend time in New York, that's what you think about when you think of these great Yankees. To be a great there's levels to this Yankee thing, right? There's Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig and Mickey Mantle and Derek Jeter. And then there's that next level that's just a little below them. All-stars, the Don Mattingleys of the world, guys like that. And it's these signature moments that Aaron Judge, who unquestionably is one of the one or two greatest players on the planet and has been for years, has been sorely lacking, man. And everything about this home run made it a home run for the ages, man. Everything from the weight. It looked like time stood still when Aaron Judge was waiting. And you could see 50 different clips from people in the stadium, and it made it infinitely better. You said you thought of Carlton Fisk. You know what I thought of immediately? Another Toronto team. I thought of when Kawhi Leonard put the Sixers to bed. Do you remember that year when he shot that ball? It bounced up off the rim, and it felt like it was in the air for 15 minutes, and it went doom, and it fell down and the series was over. That's the feeling. I got chills on my arms just thinking about it. But that's the feeling I got watching Aaron Judge hit this. And the difficulty behind that homer. It sounds crazy, but with everything being statistically tracked now, it's the first time in baseball history anybody has hit a ball 1 foot 2 inches off the middle of the plate at 100 miles an hour out of the stadium. And it was just an incredible time. The pressure of Yankee Stadium, they were a team. This is supposed to be the best Yankees team in Aaron Judge's era. And you said it, man. They were right on the doorstep of going home. Aaron Judge changes it. He's having a phenomenal, and it's so funny how it flips your playoffs too. Because Aaron Judge is hitting 500 right now. He's got 11 hits, the most hits in baseball in the playoffs. The interesting thing about it is before that, it was 9 singles and 2 doubles. And he didn't have that monumental Aaron Judge bomb, right? And one home run changed the trajectory of his playoffs. Now he's having a great playoffs.
All right, question I have for you.
Yes.
Because this was a unbelievable, I just said it was one of the bigger moments, and the Yankees are filled with moments throughout history. Do they have to advance through the series for that to resonate?
I think it dulls the shine of the moment if they don't. You go home tonight and Aaron Judge leaves a small village on base, it's tough, man. And that's part of what made the moment even better, because he had opportunities in the first 2 games to make a difference, and he went down swinging like meagerly. And so I guess it depends, man. It is a different sport in the sense of in the NBA or the NFL, you know Mahomes and you know LeBron or Jordan are going to have the ball at the end and can make a difference. It does kind of suck for the superstars because, like, if the 7, 8, 9 hitter come up in the 9th inning, there's nothing Aaron Judge can do to make it. They tossed around a rule. Did you hear that last year? They tossed around a rule where they said there should be one time a game where you could pick whatever players you want to come hit in the bottom of the ninth, or one player.
I would love that.
It would be crazy.
But it's not baseball.
No, it's not at all. But that's what's tough about being a superstar in the major leagues versus a superstar in these other leagues. You sit there and you just got to watch while the rest of the stuff unfolds around you. And I do think they go home tonight and Aaron Judge goes 0 for 3. You kind of forget about it. Why do you remember Aaron Boone? I think still 20 years later, the reason Aaron Boone has a job is because he hit that home run off of Tim Wakefield.
Correct.
And that's because, well, you know what? They lost that next series too, I think, right?
But at least they advanced through that one.
But they did advance, yeah.
And that's where I think you have to advance to this one. If you lose in the next round, I think it at least salvages a series, because it'll be embarrassing if you get bounced in this one tonight at home. Same way it would have been embarrassing last night if they would have been swept. I do think they have to advance to this one to make that truly resonate as an all-time great Yankee moment.
And as a testament to Aaron Judge's greatness too, as in the top half of the next inning, guy on base, Aaron Judge at 6'8" comes running in and dives to catch a ball that stops extra base hit and another run from coming in. And that's tough. When you come back from 5 runs to tie it up and give one right back, that'll change the momentum right there. And then we had a super sick. I mean, who oozes like swag more than Jazz Chisholm?
Right.
You see that Jazz Chisholm homer with the crazy bat flip to go 7-6?
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable night in the Bronx for sure.
Yes, it was. All right, last thing. I'm going to let you take the reins here.
Are we going to talk
for
about
a little UFC?
I can't wait.
A little UFC minute from Chris Manno.
All right, guys, we're going to make this one quick. So, big weekend in UFC. If you guys checked in, UFC 320 is in the books, right? We had a couple familiar faces who've got some familiar gold around their waist again. We got Alex Pereira, who at light heavyweight took down Ankalaev, who beat him earlier, TKO'd him in the first round. And we got Merab, who's as dominant a bantamweight as I can remember. Merab started to unveil some new stuff in his game. He started to let the hands fly a little bit, which if you know Merab, he's got the most takedowns in UFC history. Guy's whole game is predicated upon wrestling and grappling and being able to take guys down. They say he's boring for that reason, but I mean, he started letting the hands fly, and God help everybody in the bantamweight division if that becomes a thing, because there's nobody even close to him. What I want to touch on first is I just want to go back to the Pereira fight and just acknowledge Pereira for a very cool, very classy moment. If you're familiar with the UFC, you know that when these fights end, usually you're making a call out for your next fight, right?
Right.
Well, if you're familiar with the UFC game and kind of the sports game in general, you know that we lost Arthur Jones this week. Arthur Jones is a former defensive tackle for the Colts and the Ravens, and he's the brother of John Jones, UFC champion. And he passed away suddenly. So normally when it's kind of been floated that Pereira may move up for the White House card and wants to fight Jones at heavyweight. So for that reason, I think everybody was expecting him to make a call out of Jones afterwards. And he did like the classiest thing you can imagine, because he called for a moment of silence for the brother of John Jones instead of using that opportunity to big up a fight, which is something that these guys never pass up. You know? I thought it was really cool on Pereira's part. Pereira continues to be a class act.
That's awesome.
And that was the end of it. Conor McGregor news is there. He was suspended for PEDs. Now, the interesting.
Surprise.
Well, here's the deal. So it was a 24-month suspension. And under normal circumstances, it would have run into that White House card, but they worked it down to 18 months.
Funny.
Well, here's the thing. So he didn't test positive. He had 3 missed tests, which is the equivalent of a positive test. And if you look at Conor McGregor's last couple of years, to think that he wouldn't show up to something on time is sort of par for the course. Like, I do think there is probably stuff coursing through his veins right now. I don't know that I think they're performance-enhancing drugs more than I think they're just like yachting as a billionaire type of drugs.
Right.
So I don't know, but that's something we can keep an eye on. It will be over by the time the White House card happens. And just to wrap this whole thing, the White House card date was announced. June 14th of next year. Coincidentally, that falls on President Trump's 80th birthday.
Wow.
So we're going to run
and he does
UFC
everything. There's a plan for everything that he's got.
Well,
so this is a great birthday celebration for him.
Yeah, and it falls on a Sunday. So I think the UFC fights never happen on Sundays. So I think he probably realized we can celebrate multiple things these days. Save a little money.
Yeah.
You know?
That's awesome.
That should be cool, man. So the White House card is going to happen.
Still cannot wait to
react
see
to
that.
as well.
What was that? One more time?
We got something for you guys to react to. As
Oh,
well.
we got one last thing
boy.
as we send it off today. We got a little surprise from the fellas in the control room. What do we got? Let's see.
You want to know the truth?
Whoa.
I ain't got no dreams no more. I am the dream.
Did you just say that?
The crowd is turning on
This is
him.
unbelievable.
Well, we got a little heel turn.
I mean, I don't even know where to start. That is not what I expected to see today. That's
Martin, AI, right? Is that not AI?
Well, that's
of
Martin Luther King Jr. Yeah, so
Yes.
I would have to be AI. Yeah, that's Martin Luther King, and that's a Velveteen Dream promo, if I'm not mistaken. So that is pretty incredible.
AI is getting scary.
Super scary. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if I didn't know what I was looking at, man, that would be if I can make people believe that's real.
Oh,
I have
absolutely.
people in my life that
I was
can make
thinking,
believe
man,
that
is
real.
that junkyard dog? Like where I'm going back in history. And then I saw the MLK on the jacket.
And
I'm
they
like,
put
wait
him
a
on the
second.
dream too. They used
Yes.
the dream quote.
Yes.
That's incredible.
That was pretty
Wow.
impressive.
Gentlemen, thank you for that.
That was good. That was a good surprise.
Thank you
perfect,
for that.
Perfect ending to the show today.
Left us
Make
floored.
sure you give us a follow, subscribe, like the channel. Give us a follow on social media at Danny Kanell.
At Manno Steel on Instagram and connect us both, guys. Check us out.
Peace. We'll see you next week.